Hi everyone, happy Black History Month. We are here today to speak about legacy, Black excellence, and I'm so happy to be sitting between two Americans because we are going to be speaking about Black History Month. And really, as a South African, I think what I know about Black History Month is what I've learned from documentaries, what I've seen on movies, and what I've seen on the internet. Why is it important for us to celebrate Black History Month?
Oh, I think it's important because there are so many Black people who have contributed in extraordinary ways to society. Mm-hmm. And I think that there are times where history has shown that it has forgotten that. I think we saw in the civil rights movement when Black people had to demand the same rights as other people, that we just weren't viewed as having the same value as other people were. Mm-hmm. So I think Black History Month is important so that we know, Black people, we're here, we're not like sucking from society, we're actually giving back to it constantly by our achievements over the years.
And I definitely feel like with the younger generations, it's very easy to feel disconnected from the past. I know with a lot of people that I know, they don't really feel that connection or the need to necessarily know how they have gotten to where they are today and all the people that have risked so much for them. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important to look back at the people that got us to where we are today.
For me, I really think as a South African and as a Black person, when we look at Black people and history, it's always been quite a struggle. Because if you're a Black person, it's either you've been colonized or you were taken into slavery. And so I think that's why it's so important for us to teach the future generation about, what it is to be Black and everything that we've achieved and how we got to be where we are today.
Revisiting those moments and understanding the impact is so important, and Black History Month gives us that opportunity to do just that.
Yeah. I want to go back a little to what we spoke about different generations viewing Black History Month from different perspectives. And I'm going to speak from a South African perspective, really, when I think about the apartheid laws that we went through. People in our generation will sometimes say, why do you not get over it? You weren't there when your parents were treated this way. You are now in this generation. How does that still affect you? And I always say you can't just tell me to get over it, because in as much as I wasn't there, I'm still feeling the effects of it. Racism is still very much alive. It's there in very, very subtle ways. And even in as much as I wasn't there to experience the hate, I can still feel the effects, because I'm the first generation in my family to be able to bring in generational wealth. That's something my peers don't understand, who aren't Black. They don't understand that because they're carrying on the legacy of their families. They don't have to worry about how they're going to pay for college. They don't have to worry about the future of their kids, whilst I have to, because my parents didn't have the opportunities that their parents had. And so that's how I still feel the effect. Today I think that's how we can look at the difference of how our parents dealt with it and how we are dealing with it in this generation.
But we do think, just like you said, it's very important to remember it and know the effects that we still feel today. Because years ago, banks wouldn't even give us loans for no other reason than because you're Black. And so I think it is really important to go back to that history and know, like, how is this manifested in the day and age that we live in today, and how can we change those effects so that times in the next 10 or 20 years are better?
So I grew up thinking like, the better school systems have like all white students and only white students go there. And the only reason I actually got to go is because I had a reading disability. And so my sister with multiple disabilities got sent out of the district, so I got sent out of the district. And so it was very interesting to try and find myself, because I tried to be as white as possible. And so I went into the 2nd and 3rd grade with singles in my hair, like those long braids. Singles, yeah.
You don't know singles?
What do you mean singles?
So they're they're like little
tiny.
Wait, what are you talking? Are you talking about a single braid, like I'm taking my hair?
No, they're called singles. They're very thin-ish braids that have little extensions.
Like micros?
Yeah, I guess. Like box braids, but smaller.
Like micros.
I call them singles. And then finally, I got tired of people, touching it. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah. It's yes, if you want to touch my hair, go ahead, ask. I'll let you. But it's people would just come up and just, grab it. I didn't see how unique it was. until everybody started just like wanting to touch my hair and asking if there was metal in it, or like just asking like, and then
metal?
thinking I was gross because they were like,
why would people
why
think that
would-
there was
yeah.
metal?
I've never
And then
thought
people
of
thinking like, oh, she has braids, she can't wash her hair, oh, that means she's dirty. So then automatically, because I had braids, like I was the dirty kid. I was like, no, I can wash my braids. My head gets really heavy after I wash it, but like
I can't.
I could wash my hair. And so definitely growing up in a situation where you didn't see representation of yourself, but also people were so interested in you because you were so exotic to them and like not of their nature. So it definitely made me feel like I stood out, and not necessarily for the right reasons. So that was very difficult because I didn't have anybody to be like, no, like this is okay. And I just kind of had to deal with it.
Well, my black woman stereotype is quite recent. Well, I've had so many. I mean, I feel like women of color have had so many, but one example I'm going to make is just 2 days ago, I think, or 3 days ago, I posted a video of a young girl in Zimbabwe just speaking about gender equality, you know, calling for black young girls and black women to be, you know, in positions of leadership in society. And a lot of people engaged on this post, and there were, you know, particular comments on it that were, you know, a little angering when I read them. And I saw one 2 days ago. So this guy says, anyone of you who thinks we are equal will never see the door of marriage. And I read this for like quite a while, and I'm thinking, should I respond? Should I not? And I'm thinking, I want to respond because I don't want little girls coming to read this and feel like it's the truth.
So is the guy basically saying,
He's
if
saying
you think that men
you're
and
calling
women are
for
equal,
gender equality,
then
you
you're
will never
gonna get
see the
married?
door of marriage. And I feel like this is something that we've had to deal with for such a long time, you know, as women, you know, especially as black women, because people still feel like we don't deserve these things, and people still feel like the only thing we can amount to is marriage and to come second place to men. And so I had to respond, you know, in saying it's okay if we won't see the door of marriage, whatever that means, you know, as long as you know, we believe in ourselves, and as long as we see doors of positions of leadership, that's all that really matters. And so for me, I think that's the things that we have to really deal with in today. I mean, people are educated, people have worked hard to be where they are, but they're still reduced to, not to say marriage is being reduced to something, because you can be married and still successful. You can have a family and still be a leader, you know, in community. You don't have to choose between the two, because that's the beauty about, you know, being a woman, is that you can be all of those things at once.
One of the reasons it is important for people to see the three of us today is because I think it helps to destroy the idea of tokenism. And I think that there are many times when not just black women, but women in general, find ourselves the only one who looks like us in a space, whether that's, you know, in a boardroom or in a courtroom. Or on a trading floor. There's so often that you only see like one woman or one black woman. And so I think it ends up breeding this idea that there's only ever going to be space for one of us. And, you know, so people end up, rather than building each other up, we end up fighting against each other or feeling like we're competing against each other because you genuinely think like we only get one, you know? So I think that, you know, one of the reasons it's important for the three of us to be here, or the five of us when we had like Nia and Miss World together, is that, you know, I think it demonstrated there doesn't just have to be one at a time. We can have 5 out of 5, in fact. And it's important for us to be supportive of each other so that we can have more moments like that, not just in pageantry, but in business and in law and in other spaces. And I think there's that proverb from, I don't know, years ago where somebody said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so I think it's important for us to remember that we can support each other and we can all be successful all at once.
Yeah, I really think it goes to show, like I always share this story, but it's like true, because it's really important to not only like very young generations, but to generations all around. Like I was the first to win in this class, and so when you guys were competing, I was just like standing on the side, and like Cheslie won, and I was like, oh my god, like I literally said like she looks like me, like she's wearing her natural hair, and then Zozi on stage, I was like, she's wearing her natural hair too, and she's of color, and oh my goodness. And even though I'm a part of it, I still feel kind of out of it because I am like have that young perspective of like I've never been able to see this before, and now this is actually happening right in front of me. So it's amazing.
You can't be what you can't see, right? I mean, yeah. For me, I think you once said something, Cheslie, and when Kaliegh won, you thought,
I thought there was no
it's
way.
over for me. There's no way you're gonna win because
No
they
chance.
already have one black girl with curly hair. There's no way they're gonna take a Miss USA because
looks the same.
who looks the same way. Because that's exactly what it is. You walk into a costume room, you see one black girl, and you're just like, it's either me or you, girl. You know, it can never be the both of us. You walk into a boardroom, it can never be the both of us. It can just be one. Because that's just how it's always been. Like
And
you
it's
said,
been that way
tokenism.
in so many different spaces
Correct,
too. It's
yeah.
it's like a joke in movies. Like,
Yeah.
oh, got the token black girl.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing.
But
It's like
it's-
there's only going to be one.
Yeah, it's the reality of it all. But here we are. She won, you won, I won, and it's an example of what can be. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah, and that made me remember something. When I first won, I received so many bad comments saying like, oh, they got their token black person out of the way. And I was like, and I'd never thought about it because like I was never put in that situation before. So I kind of sat there and I thought like, did I win just so they could get their token black person out of the way? So when I like questioned why I was here for a little bit, because like just those like few days I was like, huh. And then that's why when I was sitting there and watching Cheslie compete and she won, I was like, no, like I'm here for a reason. Like
I watched you. You
like,
won.
Do you remember that question? Of
Girl,
like,
I was literally sitting in the audience.
isn't she 19?
And I remember you answering, and I was just like, wow.
And
I was
you
just
did
blown
it.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, so like seeing you get crowned, I was like no, like I'm here for a reason, and like it doesn't have to do solely because of like my color. Like that is besides the point. It's because I am accomplished and I'm well spoken and I like deserve
And
to
that
be
you
here.
deserve it.
Yeah.
Oh, love
Well,
it.
and I think even beyond that, I think it's important for people to see that, black is more than one color. Because I think there are many people, especially in the United States, we deal with colorism here a ton. And there's so many people who think that, light-skinned girls are pretty and dark-skinned girls belong in a different space. And I think that your win especially demonstrated to people that, like, there are tons of different colors and we are all beautiful. I remember watching like Miss USA's win. We talk about, how many black Miss USA's have won. And then you look at like the shades of color that they are. And you see like Kenya Moore was like a darker skinned Miss USA, that Deshauna Barber was a darker skinned Miss USA. And it's so important for people to see that you don't have to be just fair skinned to be beautiful. That like a darker shade of black is just as beautiful as every other shade there is.
Agreed.
I feel as though a lot of the times when I like walk out the door into like society, I feel like I always have to fit this mold of like a person and show these different faces to different people that belong to different groups.
So you almost feel like you have like this responsibility.
Yeah,
to,
responsibility
like,
to fit the mold of the stereotypes of either a black or a white person. And so I just never really understood it. And so when I go out into the world, it can be stressful sometimes, especially like at my age, because I feel like I have to fit in this mold of being what people want. Like on my comments that I get on Instagram sometimes, people will be like, oh, she only hangs out with white people. Or it's like, oh, she's always talking to like a white boy. Like it's always like a white boy. Like one of my comments were like, oh, her ancestors are rolling in their grave. And I was like, why can't I just like
just be yourself.
Like why can't I just like live my life? Like if my parents weren't allowed to be together, my dad's black, my mom's white, then it's like I wouldn't be here. So why can't I like do what I want to do? Like be with who I want to be with, have the friends that I have. And so going out into the world and having to know that I have to set the standard of like, no, I can be who I want to be. I can speak to who I want to speak to. Like I have a diverse community, and like people on the internet are only seeing like a slight fraction of that because they're not with me by my side every single day.
I think you pointed out like an important note in that there are a lot of people who like talk about like acting black or acting white, and what I think people are talking about are the stereotypes that they hold for black and white people. And I think it's unfortunate that as black people, many a times you don't have the luxury of being an independent person. you feel like you constantly are representing the entire Black race, and people are asking you questions about like, how do Black people feel about this? I'm like, I don't know. I know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
And so I think that, you know, it's important for people to start to learn that like Black people are so multifaceted and multidimensional, and we don't all think the same, we don't all act the same, we don't all like the same type of music or food. We are very diverse.
This reminds me of, I was watching this other interview on a certain show where Lupita was there. Speaking of, you know, colorism, the presenters on the show says, you know, there's a recent Miss Universe that just won, Zozibini. Is that how you pronounce her name? Asking Lupita. And Lupita's like, I don't know.
I don't know her.
I don't know her. So it was really hilarious to me, but really just showed me, you know, how much society thinks really about how Black people are the same. How you would think Lupita would know what my name is simply because we have the same skin color. How you think everyone in Africa functions the same. How you think Africa is a country and not even a continent, and that there's actually different, you know, countries in the continent. So that's just how much, you know, multifaceted and multi-dimensional we are, you know, as Black people. So when I step out, I shouldn't really feel the responsibility on my shoulders of being each and every, you know, Black person, but truly just to be myself and hope that through being me, those Black faces can recognize, you know, themselves in me, but not really to say, be like Zozi 100%. I'm not the benchmark of what you should be, but when you look at me, I hope that someone aspires to be more than what I am. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope we can, you know, continue having these conversations even after, you know, Black History Month. Continue commenting on the comment section and let us hear your views on why you think it's so important to learn about Black History Month. Thank you.